Hello, chat. Hopefully this has worked. I haven't tried a YouTube livestream before. Well, I have, but it didn't go so well. What is this stream? You may be wondering. I didn't explain it well. There was no announcement, except on Twitter. I figured it would be nice to read some Christmas stories. For me, Halloween is more of a campy time of year. The true terror comes when it's cold. So I've selected 9 or so of the very finest public domain stories I could find, and I'm just going to read them for you, and we can chat and comment on the stories. Let's see if this is working. And now I sit here in boring silence to see if chat tells me it works. It's fucking hot over here, says the Skull King. Oh well. Hopefully it will still be scary. Anyway, if you would like a fireplace, I have a link to one in the description. Have I invited Kevin Logan? No, there are no stories about potatoes tonight. There is one about a furnace, especially for Dr. Lehman. Glad to know it works. So, shut up, because you can't concentrate on chat. Fine, I'll just stay silent. You can read the chat, mate. Anyway, let's get cracking. And the first story that I selected is by someone called Jet98, and it's called 2526. Andrew awoke in the darkness. It was a noise from downstairs that woke him, a kind of subtle rustling and creaking of the floor. He glanced to the chunky glow in the dark clock on his bedside table. It was later than he imagined, nearly 5:30 in the morning. His drowsiness soon wore off as he remembered it was Christmas morning. Like any other excited 4-year-old, he tugged off the covers and crept from his bed. Ignoring the coldness of the wooden floor on his bare feet, he headed for the door. As Andrew left his bedroom, he clicked the door shut behind him. Even in the faint light, he could see the closed white doors of his parents' and sisters' rooms, grinning to himself as he realized he was the first awake. Andrew gingerly wandered downstairs in the darkness, clinging to the banister for guidance as he tested each step with his freezing toes. He missed out the one that creaked, nearly hugging the wooden rail as he lunged down. Chat really is cancel is. Don't be dissing chat. Right? Just because I'm reading something doesn't mean I'm not paying attention. You will get fucking nothing for Christmas. To his surprise, yellow light seeped out from under the closed lounge door. Andrew stopped in his tracks. Santa, he thought, as he grabbed the door handle and turned it, pushing it open in one swift, excited movement. Oh, Andrew, honey. You're up early, said his mother, Michelle, as she put down a present onto the coffee table and plastic supermarket bag full of other gifts onto the floor beside it. She went over to him and kissed him on the top of the head. Andrew looked past her, but where's Santa? Why are you putting the presents out? Chat, don't panic. Right, okay. Santa is real. This story's bullshit. It's triggering me. Simon, the boy's father, was quick to respond. Santa's very busy, you know, buddy. He just missed him. He left out all these bags, but he's on such a tight schedule, he didn't have time to lay the presents out. Andrew thought over his father's reply, but it seemed logical enough to him and he smiled. I understand, Daddy. Andrew wriggled past his mother to look at the presents. Eagerly, he scanned over them, but there was no sign of what he was looking for. What Andrew wanted most for Christmas was an electric scooter. He'd seen one, bright red and shiny, in the toy shop in town, and had his heart set on it ever since. His mother had said it was too expensive at £250, but his father had told him to wait to see what Santa would bring. Andrew was a little disheartened, but he hoped that maybe Santa had left it somewhere else, and his parents hadn't put it out for him to see yet. Just imagine how much more expensive it would have been if it were pink. He picked up a small gift from the table near where he stood. To Andrew, read the tag. Can I open one now, Mummy, before Lily wakes up? He asked, clutching it and studying the reindeer pattern of the wrapping paper. Why am I hard, Len? I'm sorry. Do you feel abused? Santa got him a Wii U. That would be true terror. Did anyone buy them? I swear to God, it's just like they put them in the shops and no one even purchased a single one. His parents glanced at each other. Soon, sweetie. Not yet. Wait for your sister. Daddy and I still have more presents left in the bags. Michelle smiled. Ah. Okay, Mummy, said Andrew as he put it back. See you in the morning. He turned and left the room, pulling the door shut behind him as he headed for the stairs. It's Christmas, yelled a voice that once again awoke Andrew from his slumber. His grinning sister Lily was in the doorway. You should see all the presents. Andrew almost flew from his bed, leaving the blankets on the floor as he darted from his room with his older sister. The pair ran downstairs. I can't fact this. I'd hope not pancake murder. I'm reading about children, so maybe wait for another one of the stories. There's one about someone being cooked in the furnace at some point. Maybe that would be more suitable. Andrew knew his parents were right. They definitely did have more presents left to arrange. The table was covered with them, and they were heaped by the fireplace and under the Christmas tree. Simon and Michelle sat in their armchairs, still in dressing gowns, sipping their Christmas Bucks Fizz. Do Americlaps know what that is? Andrew confirmed bird. Yeah, if you're an Americlap and you don't know what Bucks Fizz is, it's like orange juice mixed with fucking something. Alcoholic. It's really good. Fizzy. It's really nice. Go on, kids, Simon smiled as Andrew and Lily began tearing into their presents. Andrew had saved the big box until last. All of the other presents had been opened. The floor was littered with bows, tags, and torn scraps of wrapping paper. Lily was preoccupied setting up her new Nintendo DS game. It's so realistic. They even have video games. Andrew's last present was under the tree, wrapped in dark metallic blue paper with silver glittered snowflakes. Andrew crawled down and pulled it out, sliding it toward himself as he sat cross-legged on the floor. He giggled to himself a little, the excitement making his hands shake as he found the edge of the paper and began stripping it off. It could only be one thing. Why do I hate women? I just can't help it, chat. As he ripped off the paper, the plain black box inside was revealed. Andrew paused, staring at it, his head tilted to one side with scraps of the wrapping paper still in his hands. He wondered why his parents put the scooter in there. Open it then, honey, his mother said from behind, in that exact voice. Andrew grabbed the lid of the box and tugged it off. The box was full of colored pens and paints, stickers and glitter, pieces of card and pots of glue. The lid of the box still tight between his hands. It was an art set. Yeah, you're right, the voice of one. Family's gonna get fucking slaughtered. You can't just give a kid an art set when he expects a scooter. It's a Jumanji. Brilliant. Daddy and I saw how much you like doing art at school. You can make things at home now, too. Andrew stared down into the box, putting the lid to one side. He rooted through it. Thank you, he said, trying to sound as cheery as he could. But in reality, he was trying not to cry. There were no other presents. Tears pricking in his eyes, Andrew put the lid on the box and tucked it back under the tree, crawling back onto the sofa next to Lily. Andrew was Hitler. Maybe. And that 12-year-old boy was Einstein. Andrew couldn't stop thinking about the scooter for the rest of the day. He made a gingerbread house with his sister, and they all went for a walk down by the river, but he still thought about it. It was even on his mind as he ate his Christmas dinner. Lily had finished quickly, disappearing back to play with her new toys and games. Yet Andrew just sat pushing a cold piece of stray carrot around in gravy on his plate. "What's wrong, buddy?" asked his father, crouching down next to him. Andrew feared sounding ungrateful. "I just wanted that scooter, Daddy. All those other things are really nice, but..." He didn't say any more, just returning to nudging the carrot around with his fork. His father ruffled his short dark hair and gave a half smile. Maybe Santa just forgot it this time. He has so much to remember, like going to work and paying the fucking bills, you ungrateful little prick. Maybe you could fix up your bike sometime. I'm sure that wheel's easy to replace. You could play on that instead if you wanted, he offered. Andrew gave him a weak smile back. This kid sounds mighty privileged and white. Yes, indeed, Mycroft. Obviously. I know, continued his father. How about you make some nice Christmas pictures for Granny using your new art things? Never mind. He's not ungrateful. They're treating him like a sweatshop worker, making everyone else's gifts now. Andrew nodded, and the pair headed back to the lounge, his father patting him on the back. Lily was silent as she played her new virtual zoo game. "Look at all my monkeys, Andy. I bought 12, and it cost all my coins," she tittered, nudging her little brother and pointing at the pixelated animals on the screen. Andrew looked briefly, his eyes scanning across the dull image before slumping back on the sofa. Lily went back to her game without another word. Michelle was out in the kitchen, cleaning the plates. Leaning on a piece of cardboard from the box of a toy, Andrew colored in a picture of his missing scooter he had drawn with his new art supplies. It was bright red, like the one in the shop, and he had put glitter on the silver handlebars to make it sparkle. The TV played a seemingly looping playlist of the same Christmas tunes Andrew had been bored of by the middle of the month. The drawing was finished. It wasn't exactly perfect, but it was the best he could do. "Do you like my picture, Daddy?" he asked, holding it up. Murmured Simon. He didn't look up from his laptop, where he was tapping away as usual, occasionally glancing at his stack of papers on the arm of the chair beside him. "My picture for Granny." So Granny, alright, Granny gets the scooter. It may not be a real scooter, but, the kid himself didn't even get a fake scooter. Fucking old people, man, I tell you. "Very nice. Next time we go over, you can put it on her fridge," he replied, only looking at the drawing for a second. "And then it's going to get sent off to Maddox, isn't it?" Andrew sighed. He thought maybe his father would at least stop working for a little while on Christmas Day. Andrew knew that his mother worked at the care home for the elderly people, but he didn't understand what his father did. Uh-oh, this is where shit's going to get real. Almost every evening, Simon sat typing up from an old spiral-bound notebook or from sheets dug out of a dusty dog-eared folder. Sometimes Andrew peeked at the documents that his father had forgotten to put away in the safe he kept in the kitchen, but the long, complicated words meant nothing to him. Andrew slipped the pens back into the art box, taking one last look at his picture of his missing scooter before laying it face down on the table. Father is a pimp, porn star, assassin. Is that what you think, chat? Well, you just have to see. Is this a story about a young boy discovering his homosexuality? I don't think it's like, it's not a discovery. It's more having it imposed on him by his father. Oh crap, where am I? Right, there we go. Oh shit, yeah, now it's going to get real. Huddled up under his blankets in his new pajamas that night, Andrew tried to get to sleep. He hugged a soft fish toy that his sister had bought him. Why did Santa forget my scooter, he wondered. Am I on the naughty list? That must be why. I'm sure that's also why Daddy touched him. That time, I knocked Mummy's tea on the floor, and when I stole that cake from Lily's lunchbox, and when I lost my maths homework. He thought tiredly over everything he had ever done wrong over the year, his drowsy fears almost bringing him to tears. Nice rhyme. That's why Santa forgot it. I'm a bad boy, he said to himself gloomily as sleep overcame him. Internalized sexuality, yes. The sound of footsteps downstairs woke him later that night. He stared around, blinking around his pitch-black bedroom. The clock said it was only 5:10 this time. All of the worries of the night before drained away as Andrew sat up in bed. Santa must have remembered. He really did just forget my scooter. I'm not on the naughty list, he thought with glee as he scampered from his bed. He crept downstairs as he did the night before, one step at a time, and taking care to miss the creaky stair. He almost ran down the hall toward the lounge. The door was open, and the light was off. I wonder if he heard me coming. Andrew sat down in his mother's armchair. There was a little lamp beside the chair which Andrew switched on. The room was illuminated in a yellow glow. Andrew took a chocolate from a tin on the floor, pulling off... Why the fuck is there chocolate on the floor? Fucking degeneracy. Pulling off the wrapper and scrunching it into a ball before popping the chocolate in his mouth. He scanned the room as his eyes adjusted to the light. There was no sign of the scooter. Just then, a soft murmur made him sit bolt upright in the chair. It came from the kitchen. Andrew peered down the hall from where he sat, switching off the light. Maybe Daddy's talking to Santa about my scooter. That's how you get ants. Exactly. Look, Khaled. 5-second rule, there's no way that was... He got up at 5:10 in the morning, right? That chocolate's been on the floor for ages. As he tiptoed past the dining room, he noticed the door was open too. The doors in the house were always left shut. Andrew stopped by the edge of the kitchen door frame. A gust of December air brushed against him. Andrew shivered and hugged himself. The front door was open a crack, swaying. Santa? He asked out loud, his quiet, trembling voice fracturing the silence. He peered into the kitchen. Dim light from the street flooded into the room. A figure dressed in black was hunched by an open cabinet, pawing through it. There were papers all over the floor. Andrew gasped in surprise, and the figure shot its gaze round at him. Human eyes met his. Andrew was frozen to the spot, quivering as the hooded man just stared back at him. The orange street lamps outside gleamed off the blade of a knife in the man's hand. He wore thick winter gloves, and scarf covered the bottom of his face. A chipped crowbar lay beside him. He was surrounded by files and stacks of paper, his father's work, that had been pulled from the broken into safe under the... What the fuck? Broken into safe under the sink, right, I gotcha. That's what they must have come for. Oh dear. The only sound Andrew could make was a small frightened squeak as he backed away from the figure. A black van he had never seen before was parked up on the street outside. He could feel a presence behind him, and before he even had the chance to turn, a gloved hand shot round from behind him and pressed its palm over his mouth. Jesus. Double Santa. It's not just one evil Santa. Double evil Santa stealing your dad's shit. D. He got the nut. No. I think there's another story that involves a dog, though. Peace giver. Getting sexy, Delta Exio. Maybe. If you're into that kind of thing, if you're into kids being ganged up on by guys in robes with knives, I'm not going to judge you, but yeah, then that's the story for you. What do you think, chat? Was that a good one? Jesus' paw. Jawa. I'm trying to get into my breathing rhythm. Fucking classic. Surprise Santa. Was that it? Yeah, that was the end of that story. I've got a few of them though, friends. Don't worry. Did someone say toddlers splattered in cum, Dickie? Dangling. No, we didn't. But I suppose it was implied. Right. What's next? A decent warm-up story, yeah. Am I going to give you fun Christmas stories from my past? That was a Christmas story from my past, obviously. And don't forget, if you want a fireplace, it's in the description. Okay. Let's see who wrote this. All right, there is no author for this one, so that's extra spooky. It could have been written by a ghost or some sort of elf, of course, as it's a Christmas story that starts. This is what a friend of mine told me in my first experience of camping. It's not gay if you close your eyes. No, of course. It doesn't say that. It says instead, the soft thud of following footsteps echoed behind him as he hurried through the snowflakes toward home. They kept pace with him, quickening when he quickened and slowing when he slowed. It was creepy. It sounds like a fucking echo, you idiot. His flesh crawled at the sound, and he sped up, cursing himself for walking home alone from the midnight Christmas mass. Normally not a pious man, the middle-aged bachelor had suddenly been struck by a wish to hear the old Christmas songs sung once again by a church choir, and had walked across town to attend the service. Now he regretted his choice as he passed dark house after dark house in the snowy night, and the footsteps always followed. He sped up until he was nearly running, and skidded into his street. A few more paces brought him to the bottom of his front steps, and as he dashed up them, he realized suddenly that the following footsteps had ceased abruptly. He glanced behind him at this cross street, from which he had just turned, and saw only one pair of footprints in the snow-covered street, when there should have been two. Old man discovers echoes, I'm telling you. He frowned in puzzlement, and then shuddered as a cold breeze struck him, driving snow against his collar, and slammed him against the door. The freezing white powder seemed to almost pass through the door, but that was superstitious nonsense. His hand was shaking as he unlocked the front door and hurried inside. Skidded is he Sonic, Khaled. He's going to go fast, certainly. He made that decision, so it's not impossible. He expected black nothingness, as society conditioned him to not expect much from those of dark complexion, but was delighted to see the yellow glow of firelight coming from his study doorway upstairs. His old housekeeper, whom he thought would be firmly asleep in her attic bedroom, must have lit the fire pending his return. He shrugged out of his coat and paused for a moment, amazed to find it still warm and dry, though he had walked for more than a mile through a snowstorm. It was almost as if he'd been walking in a bubble of calm air, a wintry safe space of sorts following him, though he remembered the soft snowflakes hitting his face when he first stepped out of church, before the mysterious footsteps could begin. His shudder was interrupted by a shout of greeting as his old friend Andy came hurrying out of the study. His whole face lit up in a grin at the unexpected surprise. The two men shook hands heartily and retreated back to the warmth of the firelight. Talking so fast, they stumbled over each other's words. Andy had left town years ago to take a government job in DC, and they hadn't seen each other since. Casper the SJW Ghost, Super Bob. Now that would be a story. Write it quickly, and I'll read it. Nearly an hour passed before it occurred to him that his guest might be hungry. His offer of a meal was instantly accepted, but Andy was unwilling to leave the comfort of the fire to eat in the kitchen, so he jogged downstairs alone to fetch some food. He didn't wonder at his friend's reluctance to join him in the kitchen. Andy had looked very pale, and had kept shivering with cold while they talked. He hoped his friend wasn't ailing for anything. It's a stalker friend. Obviously. So chat, what have you got to drink? Did any of you get hot cocoa prepared for comfiness, or are you just watching without any beverage? Personally, I've got some apple juice with cinnamon vodka, and it is very, very good. It tastes like apple pie. Bailey's on ice, nice. Peppermint liqueur sounds good. Very Christmassy, yes. Dark ale, good, good. Good. Male tears, your own or someone else's? Okay, Knuckleball. When I've got through a few of these, I'll check my DMs for something else to read. A few minutes later, he was back with warmed up meat and potatoes and a couple of glasses of beer, apologizing profusely as he handed Andy a plate for the mismatched dinnerware. Andy just laughed and hunkered down to eat. When they were both finished, he showed his friend a guest room and then tumbled into his own bed to sleep. All his apprehension caused by mysterious footsteps forgotten in the visit of his friend. He jumped out of bed Christmas morning and dashed immediately downstairs to the guest room to rouse his friend. Andy wasn't there, and the bed had not been slept in. He ran down to look in the study, but Andy wasn't there either, and one plateful of food was sitting on the end table beside his old friend's chair. He didn't even eat the food. Wow. It was completely untouched, though he'd seen Andy eating from it the night before. Skin creeping at the thought, he ran to the kitchen and asked his housekeeper if she'd seen Andy. But the housekeeper had seen no one either the previous night or this morning. He flopped down on the bottom step of the staircase, completely baffled. Where had Andy gone? It was a mystery that plagued him all Christmas Day, and he did not enjoy his holiday dinner at all. A fact that annoyed his housekeeper. So far, we've got a theme forming. Ungratefulness. Of course, at Christmas. You know, it's not so much scary as just infuriating at these people who just don't appreciate what they have. Incredible. Is this story going to end with a ghost job? We'll see. We're near the end. He was awakened the next morning from a restless sleep by the sound of the front doorbell. He stumbled out of bed and was splashing water from the bedside pitcher onto his sleepy eyes when a knock came at his bedroom door. When he answered, his housekeeper handed him a telegram that had just arrived. As she hurried back downstairs to prepare his breakfast, he opened it curiously, not knowing who would be telegraphing him so urgently. As he read the telegram, he started to tremble. The message was short and to the point. Andy's family regretted to inform him that his old friend Andy had passed away on Christmas Eve in his home in Washington, D.C. Chat, how did you guess that? How could you possibly have figured out that he was dead? It was such a twist, such a good twist. He sat down hard on the bed, the telegram fluttering away from his hand. Well, my friend's dead, but at least I can get a good ghost job. It must have been Andy who had followed him on Christmas Eve. That would explain the eerie footsteps and the dry coat in the middle of the snowstorm. He must have spent Christmas Eve with a ghost. That's the ending. That's the fucking ending sentence. That's the note. That's the note it's leaving us on. Fuck me. I'm going to apologize for reading that to you. In fact, play Depression Quest. Maybe. At some time, that will happen. Not tonight, though, friends. Tonight is a holiday story fest. So what did you think of that one, chat? What do you reckon? Good story, or was this story better than the last one? Holy God, this drink is so good. Ryan Kent, consider yourself noticed. Lame. Yeah, I agree. It wasn't fantastic, but well, hopefully Dr. Lehman is still here, because Next up, it's a furnace story. If you get me some Christmas erotica, I will read it. Okay. Jacob's Ladder with Guns. 9 out of 10. Right. Next up. You're pretty spooked, alternative hero. Okay. The Furnace is our next story. Are you ready? Oh yes, now it's a party. We've got the ovens ready. Everyone from catgirls to cripples can fit inside. It's a true holiday celebration. To think that you would have the absolute cruel spirit to leave me only a day before Christmas Eve. We've already got a spurned lover. You know this is going to be good. And not only to leave me, but to leave me for my best friend since childhood. I thought that no human being had so little heart. It's kind of funny and kind of amazing how well we humans can deal with such tragedy. So I had a beautiful plan. It was not fair. It was not justice that I had just had to move on with my life. No, this relationship deserved a grander end. In true Christmas spirit, I would come down the chimney, just flood a living room with festive semen. Okay, come down the chimney with a jolly old smile on my face, giving not gifts, but pain. The greatest of revenges, killing her after she watches her beloved die. And all too quickly, yet after what seemed like an alternate. What the fuck is that typo? I think they mean eternity. Towards the night before Christmas, technically the evening, Christmas Eve at last, I put on a suit made of red and white wool in typical tradition, all the while unable to stray a smile from my face. I made sure to tuck a cleaving knife in my breast pocket I had sewn into the suit. I walked down the street to her cheerful holiday house, grinning from ear to reddened ear, occasionally letting out a festive ho, ho, ho. Her house was alight with Christmas cheer. Sorry about my dog, guys. Somewhere Christmas gooses were coming out of the oven. I took a peek into her window. There she was sitting, smiling, even with my child. Fucking what? So I climbed up the wall and positioned myself on the lip of the chimney. I dropped quickly and quietly. Nobody saw me, and nobody would until I was done. The fall was much shorter than it should have been, and it was dark when I landed. At first I couldn't comprehend, but then my fate hit me. The house had been remodeled. I knew because I had helped him do it. They had removed the fireplace, but kept the chimney. My eyes adjusted, and my worst fears were confirmed. All I could see was singed brick and ash, but then my heart truly dropped. What worried me wasn't where I was. They had put in an automatic gas furnace exactly below where I was standing. If that stove turned on, the chimney would turn higher temperatures than a human could survive. Definitely higher than a regular chimney. My invasion strategy had trapped me in a claustrophobic brick oven. All I could hope was that somebody saw the ladder before the furnace turned on. This is a very, very layman Christmas. I hope he's in here. The furnace was set to turn on if the temperature dropped below 70 degrees. Better stay cold then, mate. The house was poorly insulated, and unfortunately at that moment it was a little chilly. The furnace turned on. Somewhere, Christmas means joy. Somewhere, all children can see joy. And all I see is burning rock. I claw at the wall, my skin burnt and stripping away. My eyes bleed and shrink, and the air makes every breath agony. The only joy I find is in knowing that my prison will end with my death. My suit is burnt away, his Santa suit, remember, and the metal of the knife has bonded to my flesh, searing into the skin. I cry out possibly a final time into the bitter winter night, as my vision goes for the last time, and possibly with it, my life. That was by someone called Sid Joe. I love the Christmas tale. So, how would you reckon, chat? Was that better than the other ones or worse? I'm not sure, because it's one of those ones where it's so bad, I think it's good. So am I another shitty creepypasta channel now? No, this is just for Christmas. Christmas only. Because of what I feel like doing. Written by someone who doesn't understand how furnaces or fire work. You know, not everyone has access to fire. Only people descended from the Greeks are allowed to use it. If you don't have a direct line of descent from Prometheus, using fire is cultural appropriation, and you mustn't. Do Christmas erotica. Send me Christmas erotica. Or maybe you have. I'm going to go look at what Knuckleball sent me. I've only got one message, so I don't think I've been... Yeah, wait. Oh, great. Thanks, Knuckleball. It's long as shit. And you're saying not to read it. Anyway. What have we got next? Promethean privilege. Yes, indeed. That's how it works. Look, of course it is. Didn't you know? Haven't you ever read the story of fire being stolen from the gods? But, of course, it's fine to take it from the gods, because the gods have privilege. You just can't take fire from the Greeks now. Anyway. Alright, here's another good short one. How will they cook the food? You don't need to cook things. Japan does just fine with sushi, right? There's no... Well, there's the rice, I guess. But just have sashimi. But do your own version. Like, eat raw. Just have steak tartare every day. Anyway. You ready for the next story? Are you prepared? Does this not hurt my voice? No. It's actually fine. Right. A Painted Christmas. Written by unknown, anonymous. There is no known author, in other words. Patrick Finn arrived home from his Christmas conquests, beating out the snowstorm by mere miles, mere minutes. He felt not only the foreboding presence of a hazardous blizzard, but also that of something else, something darker. It felt as if it resonated not only within his soul, but also within the souls of those around him, within the very ground itself. What do you think it is, chat? Patrick had never bothered to check, but he was sure that beneath the grass and soil of Winter Harbor, Maine, therein hungered a gaping mouth or a chasm yearning for the flesh of the innocent, and anchored to the physical world only by a desire to seem normal. Is that where they buried Dworkin? She's dead, right? I don't know. It had not yet been appeased, because the residents of Winter Harbor were all but innocent. It seems... Maybe they're just trying a little too hard to be sort of Lovecraftian. Maybe a bit. I don't know. It's not quite, but I feel like that's what they're going for. Patrick had moved to Winter Harbor, hoping to escape the despondency and despair he had felt in his hometown, Belmont, Maine. So far, these feelings had only been amplified, magnified, by both the wintry death that he felt tiptoeing in the town's midst, and the lingering scent of paint that seemed to permeate every building in the city. Check my DMs, okay, Dark Art. After this. It was as if the town was constantly being repainted in some sort of half-hearted attempt to cover something up. Okay, that's a bit better. Still, he felt it necessary to stay, So as not to make matters worse for his wife, whom he barely saw anymore, and his son, who always seemed so distant, he and his wife were going through a rough time, I presume it means, in their marriage, and their son was feeling its effects. It was akin to what one may feel after a tumultuous earthquake. Patrick felt that he had to make it up to his son, so he went out and bought him the most expensive and extravagant thing he could get his hands on in this late shopping season. A brand new video game system. Votes for the kid turning into a killer. He had assured his son that, even though he had acted out often this year, Santa would bring him something good. Throughout these charades, Patrick felt empty at the prospect of shopping for a boy that he knew nothing about, a boy whose existence was forgotten every so often. Son is tranny, says Cyrus McBain. Is that what you reckon? His son is a synth. Is this Fallout 4 fanfiction? Or Philip K. Dick fanfiction even, as well? Do androids dream of electric Christmas? On the eve of Christmas, Patrick arrived home before the snowstorm and quickly crept into the garage to wrap the present and place it under the tree. It was in this garage that he often felt abrupt changes, as if within its small space it contained secrets beyond human comprehension, just like a safe space. The musky smell of the old holiday decorations, coupled with the ominous scent of fresh paint, varnish, and gasoline, all seemed to meld into one personified force. Whispering sweet nothings to Patrick as he exited his car. This caused him to shudder heavily, as if beset by a fit of delirium tremens. I suppose I don't fucking know that word. Shit. He shrugged off the dull headache and dry mouth before quickly and sloppily wrapping the gift. I can't wrap gifts worth of shit. I was doing it today. It looks like a dog tried to wrap the gifts I've got to give people. He's fucked up on fumes. Mr. Farkas, it does seem like that. If he smells paint all the time, likely. Following this, he slipped it under the tree and began to creep upstairs. He couldn't help but grimace at the thought that he was as far from Santa as humanly possible. I know the feeling, honestly. Santa is what we all aim to be. As he reached the top of the landing, Patrick glanced over at the clock. It read 11:49. He stood there, as if to wait for some fleeting childhood feeling that may accompany the arrival of Christmas. It did not come. Oh shit, has it been cutting off? Oh shit. As he soon found, nor did cheery music, nor the scent of evergreens and cookies, just deafening silence and that damnable scent of paint. It was everywhere, inescapable. The arrival of yet another disappointing Christmas struck Patrick like a blow to the face. He fell to his knees, then subsequently onto his stomach. He couldn't tell if he had passed out or not. Suddenly, a loud sound in his son's room jarred Patrick awake. He quickly got up and stumbled into the room. The popping sound he had heard made him wonder what made it. And when he finally found out, he was confused even further. A large, black humanoid. Wow. Adorned with goat horns and a tongue that writhed like a snake, stood before him, clutching his son. Krampus, isn't it? It's gonna be fucking Krampus. That's pretty dope. I like that. Patrick stood dumbfounded, seemingly incapable of recognizing not only the creature, but anything else before him. What do you want? Patrick asked. Innately, he knew that the creature wanted something. Amazing trick there, psychic. The creature smiled, licking his lips. Obama asks Delta Exio. Maybe. This is the final form. After 8 years as the president, he finally grows horns. Thine tender fruit, not spoiled by the worms of new, but by the tree that bore it, ripened not into ambrosia, but a rotten, hollow core. Patrick stared at the creature. Sweat began to collection on his brow. And that wasn't me fucking up. He felt as if his brain itself had been lit afire. Suitable for this channel. I can't say I understand, Patrick stammered out. The creature smiled again. Not by love of a dying star can a planet to be adorned, but by the eruption of its most sacred peaks. I desire the treasures from which you hope to find salvation. The gift to your boy. It is a gift for me now. Patrick couldn't understand why the creature would want the game system, because video games are satanic tools. But he felt it necessary to give it up. Fine. If I have to, if it means my son won't die, but I'd rather keep this GameCube. He quickly bolted downstairs, grabbing the box and, clutching it tight, he sprinted back up to his son's room. The creature, upon his arrival, thrust Patrick's son to the floor and held out one long, beckoning hand. As Patrick handed over the present, he couldn't help but feel as if he were Faust himself, exchanging an eternity for one single moment of gratification. The creature licked his lips once more and disappeared in the time it took Patrick to blink. When he was sure he was alone, Patrick fell to his knees and wrapped his arms around his son. He expected a thank you, an I love you, something. He heard nothing. He looked down. He found that his son was withering away, becoming the very shadows that inhabited the night around him. Patrick knew at that moment that he was entirely alone, swallowed finally by the chasm beneath his feet. He stumbled to the garage before sitting down, embracing his solitude and his communion with the musky smell of paint that seemed to beckon invitingly. Round of clicks, chat. What a good story. So what do you think the political message was? Like, don't trade your family life for a console. Make sure it's a PC, otherwise everything will wither away anyway. Should have kept the Wii. Fucking exactly. Now he doesn't have his son or a games console. But then again, you're better off without a games console, really, aren't you? Triggered from the clicking. I'm sorry, Layla. I didn't mean to. Right. I've been told to check my DMs. We might have some erotica, friends. Maybe. We've got 2 messages. Soviet stuff. Okay. Okay. Let's see. Let's see what this is. Okay, it's not too long. It doesn't say if it's public domain or not, but I'm sure it'll be fine. Oh well. What's the worst that could happen? This is from marriageheat.com. Love, hot, marriage, sex. Jesus Christ. The title of this shit is called 'Twas the Night Before, and then in parentheses, Sexy Christmas. 'Twas the night before Christmas, and all through the bedroom, every creature was horny. Anticipation in the air did loom. The sheets were pulled back awaiting the lovers to jump in bed and snuggle under the covers. The candles were lit, offering a glow, similar to the sun in new-fallen snow. The vibrator was charged to operate at full speed. I knew I was ready to meet her every need. When she got undressed, showing all of her skin, I knew in a moment she was ready to begin. With her breasts hanging free, her nipples erect, I leaned in closer, ready to inspect. Kissing her breasts delicately, I knew she was getting turned on by me. Running my hand all over her, she gave a slight whimper, then started to purr. Our legs were entwined as things heated up. I squeezed harder on her D-cup. This is so fucking bad. Jeez. Suddenly, she turned on her back and grabbed my hand. I knew that was all the foreplay she could stand. Sliding my finger into her sweet blessed. She has a stupid face. Blast it with piss. She was so wet and smelled so good. I reached in deep, as I knew I should. I started to rub her special spot. Things were definitely starting to get hot. Reaching for the vibrator, I knew she was close, just a little bit more. Sliding the vibrator deep inside, pleasure washed over her like the tide. Right, okay, let's finish this. With the vibrator on high, it wouldn't take long for her to swing her sweet song. I felt her get tight, her body shuddered. She started to moan, harder, she uttered. Like an ocean wave crashing on the shore, her orgasm coursed through her till she couldn't take more. Pulling the vibrator out slowly, she reached her arms around me, pulling me on top of her nudity. I must admit it was quite a sight to see. Guiding me into her slowly, I knew that this moment had to be holy. Slowly at first, I started to thrust, soon picking up speed, as I knew I must. She looked into my eyes, said, "Make love to me." We both loved sharing this intimacy. It sort of goes like, it almost slips into family friendliness, like they're trying to keep some sort of rating. Now it was my turn to feel the pleasure, as an orgasm washed over me without measure. Closing my eyes, I pressed deeper in, as a tingle ran all over my skin. Wrapping our arms around each other tight, this was turning out to be a perfect night. Closing our eyes, we started to kiss, absorbing completely this moment of bliss. Laying her head on my chest, I heard her sigh as she started to rest. I gave her a squeeze, holding her tight, as I thought to myself, what a load of old shite. Right, how was that? We've done some horror, now we've done some Christmas erotica. It's frankly, scarier than the horror. Some dude wrote that, like, for his wife. Who's the author? Frank Wu. No, of course not really. I don't want to horrify you that much, honestly. The horror was better. Yes, it was. All right, people have sent me more stuff. All right, I had a bunch of creepy stuff ready, but if people are going to, give me, okay. Yeah, that's Russian stuff though. That's not creepy. That's not skeletons appear. No. We've got to do Christmas. Look, just because it's Russian doesn't mean it's automatically Christmas, right? Even though every day is Christmas in Russia. Right. Read some feminist poems, only if they're Christmassy. DM me Christmas stuff. Anyway, we've got another one. It's called White Christmas. And fuck, it's long. It's by Ash Abbott from creepypasta.com. Not sure if horror or feminist erotica. That's right, they are similar, indeed. In Soviet Russia, Christmas celebrate you, kawaii waffle. Seems about right. Okay. Again, this is called White Christmas. Fuck, it's cold. You would think I'd be used to it by now. Pulling my scarf a little tighter, I take one last drag of my cigarette and flick it to the ground, crushing it underfoot. I watch as it flares for a moment, a fleeting fight for life, before quickly fading to black on the frozen ground. Last one. I had checked all the nearby shops, and there were none left. There wasn't much of anything left after the looting. Goodbye, old friend. White Christmas. A tale of holidays after Ferguson riots. I give the nearby landscape a quick once-over, surveying it as I do every time I come out for a smoke. Snow. Everywhere snow. With a great sigh, I pull the glove off my right hand, fumbling in my pocket for the photo, their photo. It's all I have left, my girls. I stare at it until my hand begins to burn, then gently return it to my pocket, shoving my glove back on roughly. Goddamn snow. Turning around to face the building, I reach for the cold metal handle, pausing a moment to read the sign on the door. National Weather Service, Key West, Florida. This used to be a forecast center. We'd sit around predicting the weather for locals and tourists alike. Well, mostly the tourists. The locals could always pretty much predict the weather themselves. Warm, sunny, sometimes rainy, with the occasional hurricane to keep things lively. I just swallowed a burp. I thought you should know, to be very proud of that achievement. After the snow came, though, there didn't seem to be much point in going through the motions of forecasting. We did it for a while. We thought the snow was temporary. We thought it was some weather anomaly that would evolve after a few days. Maybe a week at the outside. We were wrong. It's only ever snow. Snow. And a balmy 28 degrees Fahrenheit. Turning the handle, I give the door a yank, and it opens with a groan. Everything is frozen these days, even doors. The door is set in a wall of square. It sounds like an old man complaining. These kids nowadays always being frozen. The door is set in a wall of square glass panes, which have been covered with plastic and blankets in an attempt to better insulate the building. I walk quickly through the chilly lobby. The coldest part of the building, it's become something of a storage room. There are piles of things in disarray on either side of me. The only clear path is to the door. At the far end of the room is another door, better insulated than the first. Passing through, I close it quickly behind me. I hang my coat, scarf, gloves, and hat on hooks opposite the door and head down the hallway. Am I fluent in swallowing? What's that meant to mean? Turning the corner, I enter the main part of the building. We call it the bullpen. Maybe this is going to be Christmas erotica again. It's not meant to be. Sorry, chat. The building wasn't always like this. It used to be individual offices and other rooms. But when the snow came, it changed everything, for everyone. And now, instead of sitting in our offices forecasting the weather, we all sit at desks in one big space, for shared warmth as much as anything, and try to figure out what the hell happened. Is this a Tumblr story? Maybe. Bill looks up as I enter the room, greeting me with a nod. How is it out there, John? He asks. Oh, you know, I replied. Cold. I head for my desk, back center of the pen, and plop down in my chair, hoping my short break will have given me fresh eyes. But after 6 months of this, there is little chance of that. I lean back in my chair, close my eyes, and rub my temples, internally reviewing what I know. What do you reckon? How's this going? I think it's a bit slow, this story. See you, Dark Art, take it easy. The presently accepted account of events goes like this. A little more than 6 months ago, on Christmas Day. Hey, fuck. No, this was meant to be a Christmas story, not 6 months after. That's about as far away from Christmas as you can get. We've been misled. A little more than 6 months ago, on Christmas Day, by sheer chance, some complete and utter fluke, at precisely 8:17 GMT. Everywhere around the world, you could hear the opening strains of Bing Crosby's White Christmas. Now it gets good. All at once, everywhere in the world, every radio station, Every internet music service, every CD player played that song. It didn't matter if those particular people or cultures celebrated Christmas. It happened everywhere, without discrimination. It was a very inclusive Christmas miracle. Even people who hadn't been listening to music swear their radios switched on. Crosby sang about dreaming of a white Christmas. And that's what we did. Everyone, everywhere around the world at once, fell instantly asleep. Are they sure this isn't Bill Cosby and not Bing Crosby? And we all dreamed of a magical snow-covered world. By all accounts, we were only out for maybe 3 minutes, and when we woke, it was snowing. Everywhere. All at once. It started slowly. Beautiful, fluffy snowflakes fell like confectioner's sugar from the sky, and soon everything was covered in a blanket of white. No one worried until the next day. Even in tropical places like this on Christmas Day, the Christmas snow seemed like a Christmas miracle. Christmas, Christmas, Christmas. In the harsh light of December 26th, though, it was just snow, and it was cold. Christmas is a hoax, Beebs Magoo. Do you mean to tell me that Christmas isn't natural? Are you going to tell... What, are you going to say that it's some sort of social construct? Bush did snow 11, Angry Potato. That's just a conspiracy theory. Now early July, it's more than that. The world's infrastructure has begun to collapse. You'd think we could just spread some like grit and salt, really. For a while, the northernmost regions of the world fared well easily. You know what? This story is fucking bullshit, isn't it? I'm scrolling forwards. All I did was pick out some... Holy shit. Scrolling forward, it's all just talking about snow. And now they're talking about... there's a sizable snatch of... sizable, you know, swatch of snow. Where is it going? It's going fucking nowhere. Fuck this story. Yeah, nothing. It's garbage. All right, let's forget that one, chat. You were correct about it being bad. Oh yeah, okay, I'll spoil the ending for you. He falls asleep, he wakes up, and then his little girls appear. Lovely. Fucking hell, for fuck's sake, piece of shit. I wanted some really scary Christmas stories, but that was no good. Alright. So, sizable snatch. Freud would be proud. Yeah, that was a bit of a slip. Wow, great story. Look, maybe I should have vetted these, but I was told they come from a reputable creepypasta site. Okay. Next one. It's really scary. It's so goddamn white. You wrote one for me, Super Imposter. Okay. I'll take a look. Let's see. Okay. That's not a creepypasta. Oh wait, no, there we go. Nope. You fucking liar, chat. No one lies to me and gets away with it. Okay. This stream is exactly how you imagined it would be, and yet you're here. Okay, here's a great story by the extremely reputable OMG, it's ghastly. It's called The Ringer. There is quite a large chance of meeting some weirdos while walking through the streets of any even slightly significant city in the US at night. This is especially true around or on pretty much every holiday on the calendar. Why I was out for a nighttime stroll to admire Christmas lights at 11:30 p.m. on Christmas Eve, God only knows. What a strange thing to do. No one ever does that. However, the events following that night were some of the oddest I had ever experienced. Yeah, you're right, you didn't get to see any pigeon fucking last night. Maybe next time. As I have already stated, I was casually strolling my way down a street in my hometown of Northfield, Ohio. Considering the location and season, it was deathly cold, and near 10 below freezing. I was in my thick winter coat and near knee-high snow boots, but I'm the type of person who has a mild resistance to cold, so I didn't pay much mind to the freezing weather. I actually, partially, enjoyed it. Yeah, chat. Taking walks on Christmas Eve, unheard of. Utterly. Taking a walk on Christmas Eve, the madman, he actually did it. Aimlessly ambling around the streets of the town is actually quite whimsical, observing the amount of hard work and effort that people must have put into their decorations. The houses are truly an amazing sight, and they set quite the mood. In truth, Christmas is my favorite time of the year. As I was on my way back to my home, I stopped abruptly to more closely perambulate an astonishing decoration setup. Apparently, while I was admiring the incredible work, a lone stranger had seemingly been watching me from afar. I didn't notice the man's presence until after I had started making my way back to my home. As a heavy gust of wind rushed in my direction, I turned around to look away from the wind so it didn't sting my face as much as it would have. Walking is sexist. I see. Right. Then I noticed him, just standing there, still as a statue. He was about 30, maybe 40 yards away. From what I could tell, he didn't have a coat on, just maybe a sweatshirt, and he appeared to be carrying something. It's a creeper. We found the bus creeper. His presence unnerved me slightly. What was a man without a coat on doing outside in 10 below zero, just gazing at passerbys? I was just about to turn around and start traversing my way home when the stranger started to head in my direction. It's a kidney thief. He appeared to have a staggering limp, and it seemed that he could barely hold himself up, at least, whatever he had on him. Wait. I don't get it. Never mind. From where I was, it looked like he was skin and bones. Fucking skinny people at night. You know, fat people go outside on Christmas Eve at nighttime, 11:30 p.m. They don't want to see your skin and bones bullshit. It's Christmas time. They want to ignore their feelings of inadequacy. The last thing they need is to see a starving homeless person. Right? As he came closer and closer, I felt the need to run, but for some reason, I just couldn't. It's impossible to explain why I felt compelled to stay. I just did. I just simply can't give a reason for standing there like I did. The stranger speedily approached me, mumbling something. The only thing I could make out was something about a burden being released. Oh yeah, and a curse. Something you'd hear out of a gypsy's mouth. Where's V when you need him? He shoved the box into my arms and ran off, because he could tell us about that, thanking me for whatever reason. The box was your typical, generic, cliché Christmas present box. A small perfect cube with a lid slightly bigger than it on the top. The box itself was green, with that perfect red ribbon making a pattern on it. In simpler terms, it was something like you'd see on a movie or TV show. The odd man had already sprinted out of sight before I could utter a thank you. I suppose he really wanted to get rid of it, but why? I saw nothing wrong with the gift. It looked perfectly normal. Well, if you're crazy, it's a Wii U. Yeah, there have been quite a lot of video game consoles so far in these stories. It looked perfectly normal, but it was really a 3DS. It's you just slide that thing on the side up, and it's enough to drive any man crazy. It's like there's really a dog inside of your portable games console. The contents may have been a bit suspicious, but it seemed like it was just a disassembled clock, definitely not a bomb. Right, let's start that again. The contents may have been a bit suspicious, seeing it was apparent that he and I hadn't opened it yet. I could only assume that someone had given this to him, unopened, and he thought it was a bomb. Fucking, okay, I was joking about that, but it turned out to be what it was, or something, and freaked out. But what he was rambling on about as he handed me the gift was odd, however. I couldn't find a logical way to piece the whole event together. This is anti-console propaganda. There's no such thing as anti-console propaganda. That's like saying, look, that's like saying hate facts. Consoles are trash, always bad. Right? You can't have propaganda against them. There's only truth. All I know is that afterwards, I speed walked my way back to my house, considering it was quite late into the night anyway. I entered into the warmth of my home, removed my heavy winter gear, and plopped down onto my couch, box in hand. I stared at the box for at least 5 excruciatingly long minutes, contemplating whether or not I could gain enough courage to open the box and review its contents. Come on. You know the, what's it called? That thing you can get delivered to you monthly. It's not that bad. Sure, it's a huge rip-off and you open it and it's plastic Chinese bullshit, but it's not horrifying to open. Jesus Christ. This fucking story, I'm reading ahead. Fuck's sake. Right. What if it were a bomb or a murder weapon? After about 10 minutes of deep contemplation, loot crate, that's the one, yeah. It's a loot crate. This is a loot crate ad, actually, naturally. I very, very slowly opened up the box to reveal a bell. A simple, nearly insignificant bell. The thing couldn't have been more than 3 inches in height, but was it wider than it was long? I lightly grasped it, and ever so gently lifted it out of the box. It appeared to be an antique, having some wear and tear, but still maintaining to hold some of its original luster. I'm not a geologist. Fucking, yeah. Geologists, of course. Geologists known for aging bells. That's their specialism. Specialization, even. But by basic the inside of the bell, it was one simple word. Are you ready for this, chat? What do you think it says? I'll give you the opportunity to try to figure it out. What does the bell say? Grasped the bell end, certainly. Ringing bells is ableist, that's triggering. What if, what if everyone had bells, so that instead of clapping or clicking, you could just ring it? Right. Gamergate. Of course it says Gamergate. Liberty. This is this is not a bell. Right, okay. Prepare yourself for this. The bell said madness. The bell that the man on the street had given me. I was made curious by the word. What could it possibly mean? Was I cursed? I shrugged it off, trudged through the hallway to my bedroom, and set the bell onto my nightstand. After about half an hour of watching TV, I shut it off and went to sleep. My dream that night was, well, there are very few proper ways to describe it. Maybe sinister might be appropriate, but that probably doesn't cover it well. I was in my home. It seems to be nighttime outside, but I don't have the special abilities or knowledge to tell. And there were no lights on in my house. In other words, it was near pitch black. In the low visibility, I could barely see my hands in front of me. I'm not sure, but I think I was in my living room, sitting on the couch. It was cold, as if someone had either turned the AC too high or left a window or door ajar. Or it could just be really cold. There I sat in the tense darkness for what seemed like hours until I heard a muffled sound come from my bedroom. It was nearly inaudible, but still noticeable. It was the ringing of the bell. Soft but there. I began to stand up and walk toward the door out of curiosity. I like that saying, Stephen. The bell should have said Alzheimer's. No, it's not another black figure, don't worry. As I took each silent step closer to the door, the sound grew and grew with closeness, almost as if I was getting closer to the source of the noise. My bedroom door was closed, so I had to open it by... I'm sorry, chat. Let's read this again. This is poetry. My bedroom door was closed, so I had to open it via the doorknob. The ringing persisted as I grappled the doorknob and twisted it open very slowly. As soon as I opened the door, I was shocked by what I saw, or more accurately, could see. I couldn't see much, considering the extreme darkness. However, I knew that something was there in my room. Fuck's sake, chat. You were right. I could only see a dark silhouette of a slender figure. The thing had to be at least 8 feet tall. This better not be fucking Slender Man. It had the bell in its hands and was ringing it vigorously, humming a tune that I didn't recognize. It appeared to have not noticed me as I nervously nudged the door ajar. As I crept softly into the room, the figure proceeded to ring the bell, seeming to get more and more aggressive, and then quieting down after a certain period of time. This repeated the whole time I was in the room. Not knowing what to do next, I was suddenly compelled to do something I normally wouldn't have done. I got down on my knees and opened my mouth. No, of course not. I gently raised my arm and touched its back. The only problem, I couldn't. It was as if it were an apparition, a phantom of sorts, endlessly sitting there, ringing the bell. My arm was sticking through its back and protruding through the front of its body. There. Oh, pardon me. Right. I jerked my arm out from inside of its transparent body. At that moment, it swiftly swiveled around to face me and proceeded to rip my guts out with long knife-like fingers while letting out the most horrific and blood-curdling scream imaginable. It sounded like a mixture of a dying cat and metal grinding upon metal. The sound was ear-piercing, but not as bad as the pain. It felt as if I were in a dream, that the dream was a reality, and I was there, getting my guts ripped out by this demented thing. He tossed my dismembered body across the room, and just before I woke up, I saw one minute sparkle being held by the creature. It was the bell, nice and shiny. It appeared to be brand new. That's not the ending, by the way. I just need to take a drink. A very stiff drink. If he was dead, then who wrote the story? No, it's all right. That was just the dream, you see. I awoke and bolted into an awkward upright position. I was drenched in cold sweat, and not to help it at all, the room seemed to be freezing. Sleep did not calm me at all that night after the dream. By the time the sun rose the next morning, I was still greatly unnerved by the nightmare. Why would the bell be in the dream? Because you've seen it, you fucking idiot. Am I just unknowing myself? I asked myself as I prepared breakfast that morning. Chocolate-flavored marshmallow mateys. The realization finally dawning upon me, I sprinted back to my bedroom to see where the bell was, and if it had been moved in the night. Surely enough, it had, and my guts were all over the floor, where I believed the creature was standing as the dream ended. It still had its dull brown copper tone, though. As I set it back on the nightstand, I swear I could slightly pick up a near inaudible ringing of the bell, even though it wasn't moving. I just passed it off as me being nervous over a nightmare and continued my day. The ringing persisted and never stopped until I got into bed late that night. It's haunted tinnitus. For real though, tinnitus is the worst. Right. When restless sleep did find me, the only dream that I can remember having was a flashback to the previous night's events. The man giving me the box, opening the box to reveal the bell, having the nightmare, and so on and so forth. Yada yada. However, at one point in the dream, I got a third-person view of myself as I was sleeping. Apparently sometime before the nightmare started. The view I got could be compared to a paranormal ghost hunter surveillance camera, but more clear. What a universally, recognizable concept. It was as if I was watching myself sleep from an angle. I noticed something, and this isn't from the shitty pasta, this is meant to be like an okay one. I noticed something very frightening, however. In the darkness, I could just barely make out the same figure that was in my dream. It was just standing there, ringing the bell and humming the tune it was humming that night. I could barely make out its face. From what I could see, its mouth was curved into a grin of malice, with pointed and bloody teeth lining the gruesome sight. That's really about all I could see of its face, besides a faint outline. I woke, yet again in a freezing sweat. Now, I knew that this wasn't just some simple coincidence. No, this was something much more sinister. The next day, the ringing of the bell grew a little more aggressive. Right, okay, stop there. Can you imagine an aggressive-sounding little bell? I can't do it. Maybe if you're going nuts with it, but then that just sounds like someone... It wouldn't sound aggressive, would it? It would sound like someone's having a good time. Did the dark shadow at the door ask for consent? Probably not. I doubt it. Dang dong. Fucking dang dongers. Do not raise dongers in chat, whatever you do. Right. I could hear it clearly this time, so I didn't have to strain my ears to hear it. That day, I suppose I could say that it made itself known. I could have sworn that I saw the figure in reality at least 5 times whenever I looked into the dark room. When I did, I told myself I was going crazy, and brushed it off. That night was the worst night of my entire life. The dream started as the first one ended. I was a dismembered corpse lying on the floor, still looking through my lifeless eyes. This was some cannibal corpse shit. I had apparently lost the ability to move, as if I were a live soul trapped in a dead body. Everything was brighter, and I could see more clearly. However, the air was colder, and there was snow blowing through my house. The ringing, the terrible ringing, was as aggressive as ever, and I thought the thing would break if the figure rung it any more vigorously. There were words written on the walls in my blood. They covered the entire surface area of the walls. Eventually, after lying there for around 10 minutes, I regained the ability to move. My body was piecing itself back together like a Necron, kind of like how a rewind on a video would look. I was standing there and able to move freely again. I took a few steps forward to investigate the writing on the walls. There was only one word on the walls, written over and over and over. It said, ring, ring, ring. This is when I lost it. Yeah, that's the really scary part. That's a really fucked up part. I crumpled to the floor as the ringing of the bell grew to be deafening. I could hear vocals behind the ringing as well. They said that accursed phrase over and over, louder and louder, in a deep, demonic voice. Ring, 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 ring. I screamed as loud as I could, until I couldn't utter a sound with my voice. I began to inflict self-harm, trying to injure myself in any which way, it says, I possibly could, trying to will myself awake, so I could get away from this nightmare of bells and the ringing. Answer the fucking phone, says no one came. I'm sorry. I could try to rewrite the story if you wish. I awoke. My neighbor called the police. Stop, he's got a bell. And after they took me to the station, they interrogated me, asked me questions, tried to provoke a response in any way. They did not succeed. I was moved from my home to a new place of living, and the bell discarded. I hated to move away from my old house, but I like this new place. The people are nice, and the whole community is great. I love the walls here. They are so very, very white. Kind of reminds me of the snow. Ring. Ring. Incredible. You know, the true terror is that if you shout in the night and then ring a bell, you get locked up in solitary. The true horror is whatever sort of authoritarian system there is there. Ring, ring. Motherfucker. Empty parentheses are coming for you. That's all. That's it. That was the story. What do you reckon, that chat? Was that the best one so far, or was it better or worse than the last one, or what? I mean, it was pretty bad, but still not the worst it could be. Not bad. It was until the end. Comrade, he has a bell. Furnace was better, right? Let's see if I've been messaged any creepypastas. No, I haven't. It hit you right in the feels, I see. Right. Here, read this. Christmas erotica, right. Soviet creepypasta, maybe. Yada yada. Ooh, go away, ad. Someone sent me something. So annoying. Fucking ads. Leave. Oh shit, that's fucking great. Hang on. Hang on. Close. Chat, there's an ad. But I've got to tell you, what I've just been saying. Here we go, there's the close box. Okay, what do we have? Robin Angle of Examiner.com has written a poem, right? It's an article on Examiner.com. It's called Christmas Erotica. It's just been sent to me on Twitter. So, here is Robin Angle's poem, prepared. Oh Santa, big Santa, shout at me, ho, ho, squeeze into my chimney, we'll romp through the snow. I promise you, Santa, you'll never get cold. I like my men best, 300 years old. I'm panting, dear Santa. Put your ear to my mouth. I'll straddle your lap before you head south. Come jingle my bells, and I'll watch you go down. Put your balls on my tree, spread screams through town. Don't rap it, say Nick. Let's tie bows round us. That's fucking bad advice, mate. Mrs. Santa won't mind, 'cause she plays with the elves. I'm ready, dear Santa. Take me on your sleigh. Give me all that you've got, for the night fades away. I've waited, dear Santa, saved my cookie for you. There'll be no holy night, but who cares? I'm a Jew. That was, yeah, that's the fucking best one by far. That was fucking dope. Thank you, whoever sent me that. My voice modulator isn't fucking up. I've just been drinking like apple juice with vodka, so it feels a bit weird. It's going to be funny. And that, I genuinely liked that. That was dope. That was great. And that was funny. Okay, so we read The Ringer. Anyone got anything else? Or shall I do one of these Christmas bullshits again? That is some long ass shit. Hang on. Actually. Alright. Okay, here we go. This is a good one, I think. See you, Beebs. Take it easy, mate. This needs more trannies. Invite one then. I could dress up in a dress if you like. If you want me to. Read the endings before you start an investment. Okay, Saint 7. I read the ending of this one, and it did look good. Like, I think this will be, even if it's bad, it's the right kind of thing. Like, it will probably be nice. It's by Michael Whitehouse. And it seems like it'll be good. It is called A Christmas Feast. He first suspected that they were going to eat him when he noticed the distinct lack of Yuletide smells. It wasn't perhaps a conscious thought, at least not one which had been fully realized, but there was a clear growing uneasiness within him. Somehow he just knew. Surely, if a family invited you for Christmas dinner, the house would be filled with the wonderful aromas associated with that annual feast. Succulent roast turkey, honey-glazed vegetables, perhaps the fumes of mulled wine even, or a brandy-covered Christmas pudding. But no, all of these were absent. Yet the table was set. It was a particularly bleak Christmas, and while snow was often welcome at that festive time of year, the penetrating cold and frost, which seemed to sabotage both the homes and the residents' bodies, was not. The temperature had plummeted on the 7th, and there had been little sign of any forthcoming reprieve. Families attempted as best they could to reach one another, but for many, it was to be a lonely Christmas day. I'm not supposed to say the title first. Captain, leave. Why not? Travel, especially for the elderly, was almost impossible for fear of slipping on the ice. One fall was all it would take for a broken hip or shoulder, and for the more fragile individuals amongst them, recovering from such an injury was not an easy task. Certainly not as easy as it would be for those of a younger vintage. For real, somewhere here in the UK, the council demands that old people pay something like £30 for someone to come pick them up. It's hilarious. It's not, okay, not hilarious in a truly funny joke way, but you get what I mean. You get what I mean. Carrying on. The Cardinal family had taken pity on an elderly gentleman who had recently moved into the neighborhood only a few streets away. They were of an upstanding stock and took part in a local home help initiative, spending time with the old and vulnerable. Everyone knew and loved them. Timur was the youngest, a boy of only 5 or 6. He was a child whom all looked upon with great adoration, never complaining, never causing trouble, always adorable. He could keep any secret, no matter what you did to him. And his 10-year-old sister, Camilla, was equally as admired. They were both a testament to the caring and nurturing parenting skills of Ben and Lucy Cardinal. Each year, as the cold winter drew in, the Cardinal family were admired for their dedication and commitment to those around them. Their passion, almost zeal, for helping those who were less fortunate. But behind the smiles and the skin-deep facade of that of a loving family lurked a far more sinister purpose. Well, at the beginning it already tells us that someone thinks he's going to be eaten. They had a tradition each year, a way to reward themselves for their kindness and generosity, one which stemmed back through many previous generations of the Cardinal family. Each Christmas, they would invite a guest for dinner who would be welcomed with open arms into their home, sat down at a beautifully set table, provided with humorous and enjoyable Christmas conversation, and then by the light of the roaring fire, the guest would be stabbed to death and eaten gratefully. Of course, the little boy likes it most. They all reveled in the old tradition, with Timur looking forward to it the most. He had a ferocious appetite and a waistline to match it. But children do get so wrapped up in the anticipation of a family Christmas, and his parents were delighted to see a growing boy fill his belly even. Okay, so I have been drinking a little bit. Camilla was more of a quiet disposition than her stout little brother, slight of figure with a pallid complexion which reminded all of her mother. But make no mistake, she adored eating with the family and could render anyone silent with a sharp, cold insult. Ben was the local police chief for the area, so covering up their annual feast was quite the cinch, while Lucy was, shall we say, a relation of sorts, and was entirely enthusiastic about maintaining the Christmas tradition. Oh, thank you, Super Imposter. I'll check that after this. Their guests were invariably those without family, and often of a ripe old age, forgotten by society, left to wither in their isolated little houses. Ben explained to the children yearly that it was almost a kindness to put the victims out of their slowly increasing misery, and besides, when they did eventually die, they would be shoved into a box in the ground or roasted into ashes. What a waste of good meat. This year, Timmy and Camilla were especially excited. It was all their mother could do to calm their nerves, but on that Christmas Eve, it was nearly impossible, for they knew the special treat they were in for the following day. The Cardinals were hosting a most special guest. His name was Sergiu Moraru. Right, okay. Sergiu, I don't know. I'm going to say Sergiu. And he hailed from Eastern Europe. Oh, yeah. You know, all those Slavs just eat people. I'll go on record saying, all Slavs do, squat and eat humans. It's true. They taught me in school. They had never had foreign meat before, and the very idea of tearing into some delicious exotic muscle and fat made this year's feast something to really look forward to. They had met Old Man Moraru just a few weeks earlier when Ben had noticed the unusual name on his home help list. Each year as Christmas approached, the volunteers at the local church would be given names and addresses of pensioners in the area who had no family and would be left quite alone over the holiday season. At that festive time of year, and worried that many of the frailer residents might succumb to the biting cold, church committee members would visit each of these lonely individuals and offer a friendly ear, a helping hand, and often some hearty food to the poorest of those on the list. Ooh. This is pretty gay. Look, it's not my fault if you're turned on. It's just stories, mate. If you want stories, it's for you. The names would rarely change, but at least one person on that list would sadly pass away that year. Being an upstanding member of the community and a high rank. Yeah, I think you're right, Saint Seven. There's quite a lot of fluff. Let's see if I can skip forward a bit. Let's see if we can hit anything juicy. Crackling. Chat, would you eat a human being? Like, let's say they'd ethically, they'd been killed ethically, or they'd passed away, and it was in their will that they wanted to be eaten, or something along those lines. Would you? Would you try it? Oh my god, I am scrolling down. You would, right. Tell you about my dog. My dog's a Jack Russell. He wears like a Christmas scarf. And I've got like a dog spritz, so he smells like peppermint. Right. There they sat, asking questions. Okay. Let's see what someone sent me on Twitter. That story just, like, scrolling down, it stays really slow forever. Hey, someone said they sent me something, but it's not there. Did you send it to me on YouTube by any chance, friend? I'll take a look at my YouTube messages, see if I've got a better story to read you. What does my dog do for a living? He just begs, honestly. Begs and begs and begs, and gets whatever he wants, really. Okay. Thank you very much, Falcon and Electric Lemon. Apple Dash. Oh, good. This is short. Right, guys. Oops, sorry. And this is a story from Short Scary Stories on Reddit. Link my dog's Patreon. It's called Christmas 2015. It's tradition. We're forgetting that, you know, that Christmas feast one. That Christmas feast one's fucking off. We're not finishing it. It's garbage. What we're doing instead is something called It's Tradition. Does anyone really know why we decorate the tree for the holidays? Is it to ensure a better harvest? To keep the weather mild? Or is it all just for luck? I certainly can't recall. But we do it anyway. Because it's tradition. In my small town in northern Ohio, every Christmas, we march into the woods to chop down a fir and place it prominently in the city square. Everyone takes part without exception, and it seems the tree we choose grows a foot taller every year. Once it's been set in its ceremonial stand, the townsfolk gather to decorate it. Each father or oldest son adds a homemade ornament, the greatest they can afford, hung with twine or fishing wire or sometimes rope, to celebrate the birth of our Lord, Jesus Christ. Checkmate, atheists. Once it's been set in its ceremonial stand, the townsfolk gather. Wait, fuck. Growing up, my father ran a successful carpentry business with locations across the country. He's retired now, but for most of my youth, he prided himself on donating the largest ornament. With his wealth, we could afford to ship it in from Malaysia or mainland China or Central Africa, and my mother and young brother and I would help to prepare it. Usually, it became the star piece, affixed to the very tip-top of the tree, and each year, the mayor would say to my father, "You've outdone yourself, Jacob." And my father would beam with satisfaction. The household's less fortunate. Made ornaments of legs or arms or heads, splitting a drifter or a... What? Okay. Other households were less fortunate. Some made ornaments of legs or arms or heads, splitting a drifter or a prostitute between many townsfolk. The poorest among us had to give of themselves, constructing small trinkets from toes or fingers or ears, and adding a touch of extravagance through painted nails or jewelry still worn by the dismemberment. Right, that was a bit of a sudden fucking twist. Sometimes, if the harvest yielded less than expected, families would sacrifice their youngest, who may have been doomed regardless, or perhaps their oldest, who had lived through his or her fair share of holiday seasons. Other times, women willingly gave their unborn, hung from a low branch by the umbilical, some even conceived for the occasion, planning around their fertile days in April. The closer to term, the more revered the ornament. The tree of 2015 was more beautiful than any I can remember. The green of the bristling fur, the red of the flesh adorning it, classic Christmas colors on a towering Christmas tree, and the star atop it still puffed tiny clouds of moisture into the cold air. The mayor came to me and, looking up at the ornament dangling from the very tip top, said, "You've outdone yourself, Samuel." I beamed with satisfaction, and though his face was fixed in anguish, I knew my father would have been proud too. That was pretty cool. Yeah, exactly, Saint Seven. The last one was too fucking slow, and this one hits you in the face like a frying pan. It's just like fucking boom. To the point that it even fucked up my reading. Although that may just be the alcohol. Snap, snap, snap. You like that, eh? With your non-triggering applause. It's like the lottery where the winner gets stoned to death. We have that here in Britain, just in case you didn't know. Maybe you are British. I shouldn't assume. Any more? Yeah, I've got some more. Hang on. Let's see what we've got. So, chat, what do you that last one? I think that last one's the winner so far. As in being actually good. That one was pretty cool. Right. Ooh, mate, Falcon, thank you. You've given me quite a few. Gave you a chubby Ben. I'm glad. Okay. This is another one from Short Scary Stories on Reddit. It's called Mistletoe. I like the aborted babies, says Stacey King. What about just newborns? That'd be good, right? They say they're more valued the closer they are to term. But surely if you give birth on the day and then put them up, it would be great. Right. Are you ready for this? Not 2 minutes into the Christmas party, I was cornered by a guy holding a sprig of mistletoe, rape culture. He held it up above our heads with a sly grin. Oh, look at that. Mistletoe. That means we have to kiss. So I figured, why not? It's Christmas. I'll spread the good cheer. I kissed him squarely on the mouth, quick and painless, and he thanked me before slinking away back to the party. A while later, I'd had a few drinks and was feeling particularly merry. Through the crowd, I saw the same guy making a beeline for me, brandishing his mistletoe. Again? I asked jokingly as he approached me. He smiled in response, but his eyes were darting around the room. Do you mind? He said, holding up the mistletoe. With a few drinks on me. Fucking hell, true ultimate Christmas rape culture deluxe. Turns out I didn't really mind. I kissed him again. No big deal. I didn't even consider the damage I was doing to women as a whole social class. 15 minutes later, he was back. I need you to kiss me again, he said, his voice much more serious than I remembered. It was a little unnerving. But I kissed him again. And I kissed him the next time he came over, and the time after that. Every 15 minutes, the mistletoe went up over our heads, and I indulged him. However, it soon reached a point where kissing him just wasn't fun anymore. The next time he came over to me, I told him no. Panic bubbled up onto his face. But you're the only one who will kiss me. Please. I need you to kiss me right now. He raised the mistletoe up over us, but I still refused. He became visibly frantic, grabbing the arm of a passing girl. Mistletoe, he announced. Chat says, I'm so raped right now. By the way, that's a great like pick-up artist strategy. Just run up and shout mistletoe. But the manic edge in his voice and his eyes made her back away from him. He rounded on me again, looking suddenly terrified. Kiss me, he shouted. He was close to tears. Please. I almost did. I leaned toward him. He said, do you have any idea the oppression men faced? Do you know how many of us are circumcised at birth? But the sight of something behind him stopped me short. A long, pale hand slithered up over the guy's shoulder and curled around his neck. Please, he yelled to me. But it was too late. I could only watch as the sharp claws sunk into his throat. He coughed and spluttered for a second, blood leaking out over the hand before he simply vanished. He disappeared in a puff of black smoke, the mistletoe in his hand dropping down in front of me. I caught it automatically. With the man gone, the monster's sunken eyes shifted to look at me, or rather, the mistletoe now clutched my hand. It's an apparition of patriarchy. It eyed the sprig warily, but crept towards me, outstretched claws dripping with the man's blood. I understood what I had to do. Mistletoe, I said, turning to the nearest guy and holding the sprig up above our heads. Now you have to kiss me. I kept a sly grin on my face, even as I felt long fingers inching up over my shoulder. Please. That's not really the voice a woman would say please seductively in, is it? That was alright. I think the last one was better. Hashtag mistletoe. Yes, it's an astronaut's favorite Christmas decoration. Here we go. What have we got? We've got two different ones. Okay. Oh no, that one sort of requires that I sing, so I'm not going to do it. This is what men's rights looks like. Exactly. It even hurts women. MRAs and pickup artists are all the same. They'll come up with any excuse. Kiss me, I'm oppressed. Kiss me. A demon's going to rip my throat out if you don't. It's all the same shit. Ready? Let's go. Is that real, Top Cock? Did your sister really walk in and ask if you're watching that brain again? It's okay. It's Christmas stories. It's not my usual rape apologism. Anyway, let's crack on with another story, friends. Grab one last hot cocoa. If you can. Well, kids, looks like it's Christmas Eve. Have you picked out which guinea pig you want to leave for Santa's elves? Mary and Robert looked at each other, each afraid to make a decision. Dad, Mary stuttered, then paused. Robert grabbed her hand and continued. Dad, why do we have to leave a dead pet for the elves every year? I thought they were supposed to be nice. It's a tradition. Apparently back 20 years, there was a rash of killings on Christmas Eve into Christmas morning. People of all ages were found mauled and disemboweled. The potpourri of their blood splatter blending garishly with the holiday decorations. No one had any idea what had caused it, but their imaginations began to run wild. Thoughts of barbaric elves and a slave-driving Santa entered people's heads, and by the time the next year rolled around, a number of people had left offerings to the creatures alongside the traditional milk and cookies. The death toll that year took a sharp decline, and we've been doing it ever since. The kids looked at their father with wide eyes. He'd never been one to mince words, but perhaps this was one of those times when he should have. Sensing their apprehension, he sighed. Okay. I'll pick for you. This time we'll leave them hammy. Hamtaro. Within minutes, the father was holding the beloved, squirming pet against the cutting board, with Mary and Robert looking on in shock as he raised the cleaver from the table. He'd told them specifically not to close their eyes, insisting that getting an idea of what barbarism was out there was a necessary part of growing up. Honestly, this sounds like something I'd advocate in a video. It'd be like, don't teach your kids to be offended. Teach them not to let words hurt them. In fact, make them watch their pets get fucking cut in half. Make them hard. Toughen them. Before they go to college, they have to see at least like 10 of their pets die by their parents' hands. The cleaver fell with a solid thunk, separating the guinea pig into 2 pieces. And this is meant to be horrifying, but I've watched this on a cooking show. The fucking dude, not like a normal cooking show, but the dude went and just picked up a guinea pig and broke it in half. Just to eat. So this isn't actually that bad. It's just that we keep them as pets. Right. And as Robert looked at it, he could swear he saw it twitch against the blade. His father wiped the blood splatter from his hands and face and set the 2 hunks of meat on a plate by the chimney. Hours later, they were joined by a cold glass of milk and cookies. Gonna add those too, of course. Who cooks guinea pigs? In South America, they eat guinea pigs. They live there in the wild. They're apparently good. They apparently taste all right. They're called, when you eat them, they're called cui or something like C-U-I. I don't know how to say it. Robert, however, found the explanation unsatisfactory, and being a teenager who believed he knew everything, found himself thirsting for the forbidden knowledge of what happens on Christmas Eve. So he found himself sneaking down to his sister's room. It turns out it wasn't Santa eating the pets. It was Dad. He had to eat them or he'd kill one of the family members. Anyway, yeah, hashtag watching the brain again. Henry, are you watching that brain again? I like that, yeah. She was a little hesitant, but he won her over with the mystery, and soon enough they found themselves hiding near the fireplace, waiting for the action. Like, I don't know what would be worse. Like, I just know, like, if you've got someone who like hates the shit I talk about, would it be worse for them to walk in on you watching this, or would it be worse to have them walk in on you watching one of my serious videos? Right. The next morning, their father was greeted by an unholy scene of destruction. He couldn't tell where Robert ended and Mary began as they lay beheaded, the missing craniums hoisted up on top of the Christmas tree as a bastardization of the Christmas star. Their intestines and organs were pulled from shredded bellies, and vicious bite marks scarred their remaining flesh. A note signed in blood was left as well. Thank you for the midnight snacks this year. Ho, ho, ho. Merry Christmas. It read, and was signed. Santa. What serious videos? Exactly. Exactly. That was pretty edgy. It was indeed. Am I going to do any more harmful remixes? Of course, as soon as they're suitable videos, I love doing them. They're fun to do. Okay. Okay, we've got another short one. Okay, wait, are these supposed to be scary or shitty? One of them was all right. One of them, I think, was actually okay. Most of them are supposed to be scary, but they've turned out to be quite shitty. Honestly, I had no idea they'd be terrible. No, of course I knew. But there's a bit of Christmas fun in it. While I'm not doing normal videos because I'm doing holiday shit and house shit all day. Right. I think we will do one last one. Why is my voice always so unimpressed? I'm British, dear. Nothing impresses us. Just hear the slate. Wait, hang on. These are all different songs. So, just hear the sleigh bells jingling, ring ting-a-tingling to whatever. Fucking, I don't recognize this shit. How did it go? Anyway, there was a Christmas song. Do I actually talk that low in pitch? Sometimes. As the playful melody drifted through the village, on the wings of blustery mountain air, the villagers began to pray. Doors were locked, windows boarded up, cracks sealed. And they all knew these flimsy fortifications would not hold. All they could do was pray their children were safe in the realm of sleep. Deceptively jolly tunes are carried up the mountainside by a tinny car radio swiftly approaching. A cherry-red AMC Gremlin ambles through the deserted roads, inexplicably unencumbered by the snow. The radio continues to blare as the car prowls its predatory circuit, cords wailing amidst the sigh and howl of winter wind. You bet it's one of those fancy boroughs that begins with a W. I live in Oxfordshire. FYI. He sees you when you're sleeping. He knows when you're awake. He knows if you've been bad or good. So be good, for goodness sake. Yeah, that's true. I was born in the States and I moved here. No, I did not go to a public school. Oh, chat. Okay. So someone steps from a car. Guess how it described the figure. Some kind of figure steps from the car. Guess what adjective is attached to it? Ready? Chat, can you figure it out? If I'm surprised, I don't change my voice. I just smash whatever surprises me. Yeah. Black, dark, shadowy. Yep. A dark figure steps from the car, 7 feet tall, and so thickly clothed in coarse, matted black hair that only vigorous movement may suggest the presence of a skeletal foundation. Antlers, more akin to the dark and twisted limbs of trees than any majesty that graces a stag, crown him as a damned king of lost souls. And that smile, wider than any anatomy should allow, spreading into a malicious grin composed of tens of flesh-rending knives, all alone in the street, accompanied only by the dissonant melodies of merriment. The abomination lifts hands, made heavy by cold iron chains. One clap, and one clap only, pierces the loud silence of midwinter. And that's all it took to trigger them. The naughty children, the ones not yet asleep, begin to rise. Though their eyes are open and their senses awakened, the children have no room in their heads for anything but the music. Promises of sugar plums and shiny toys blotted out the shrieking pleas of parents, and bidden by that enchanting harmony, they stepped into the street. With a flourish, the devilish figure conjured a burlap sack and began to collect the year's tribute. As each child walks into the bottomless sack, this is how pedophilia actually works. They just stretch open their nutsack, and the kids go inside. He spared a moment to stroke their faces, drawing a line down the cheek to the chin. There's another Christmas hymn played. With that, Krampus started the car and drove back down the twisting mountain roads, allowing only a few lines as a parting joke to the stricken village. We wish you a Merry Christmas, we wish you a Merry Christmas, we wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Right. So that was, a couple hours of dicking around with the Christmas stories. And a nice end to it, I think, with the You got to hear me do something that was almost a bit like singing, a tiny bit like singing. So I think I'll have a video before the new year. If I don't, I'll have a video in the new year. But I will definitely, I'll be streaming on Twitch tomorrow, and I'll be streaming throughout the holidays. But after the new year, I have something that's really fucked. Like, you know, that Stephanie shit. They've blocked me now. I was trying to get into contact with them before I ran some more stuff. That's why I didn't include more details. I'm still trying to get in touch with their family, but yeah. After the holidays, probably have something really fucked for you. And Merry Christmas, chat. I'll see you. Lazy fuck not making videos. I'm making Christmas, man. Anyway. See you, chat. If you want to come hang out on streams, regular time on Twitch. For now, though, Merry Christmas. See you another time, whenever the next video is, which will probably be before the new year, but might not be.